Hello there, good evening, and welcome to a live stream that's going to be a wee bit different. It's setting up a wee project, hopefully an interesting adventure that we're going to be having, examining the archaeology of the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, hello, good evening, Nolan. Now, this is going to be interesting because I always forget that for some reason the Elgato setup interferes with my SteelSeries keyboard, so I can't type, but I can obviously write on paper. So notes that I make this evening are going to be handwritten, and I also can't use keyboard shortcuts to navigate in OBS. So we're going to head on over to the Nintendo Switch screen here, and at the moment, as you can see, I'm actually playing No Man's Sky. And let's just have a look at oh, that's the other thing. Yes, what I wanted to do as well for this live stream was that the BBRBB I heard a minute ago. I don't know. But what I will be doing also is I want to play a little bit of music. Music live streaming, or streaming in the background rather, as we do this today. So first of all, I'm just gonna, there we go. Oh, sorry, No Man's Sky. Yes, so that is that. Yeah, that is the game we've been talking about on Discord. But also, just so you know, the music that's in the background of this stream is oh, and I need to make sure I can show you this. So I'm going to go to screen cap, which is going to make everything seem infinite until I put this here. And that is this. It's the Zelda's Lo-Fi Kingdom by Game Chops. They do specifically say in the description that you can use it in live streams, so long as you credit them and that you give them an opportunity to be found. So that's what we're doing. We have this music in the background. Hopefully it's going to be a bit atmospheric, because basically today we're just going to be looking at the screen captures that I've made on the Nintendo Switch, and you know, that doesn't have any back. Oh no! I just I'm trying to do too many things at once. There we go. Oh no! I can't control shift the tab. See, I'm trying to do too many things at once. Let me just reopen that. There we go. And we're back. Good evening. And now, yes, we're going to go not playing No Man's Sky. How am I faring with No Man's Sky? Okay. I think I was a little bit disappointed that it doesn't have the same multiplayer as other versions, but that's fine. Anyway, we need to go all the way back to when I first started playing Tears of the Kingdom. And what we're going to be doing is gathering categories to examine in the upcoming Archaeological Survey. If you need any help, more than happy to help. Well, that's the thing. I feel as though it's the sort of game that genuinely encourages that sort of community, doesn't it? All right, Skyrim. Keep on going. Kirby. Okay, right. So I think we're basically there, surely. Yeah, here we go. So this was my first screenshot in Tears of the Kingdom, and actually just before I started playing this game, I actually specifically went back to Breath of the Wild just to have a little look at some aspects of that game. For example, the Guccini barrows, the sort of jungle, well, not jungle, so the motifs that appear in the Faron Woods and through into the jungles, and also very specifically the Zonai ruins that you find there as well. So I did that, and then in anticipation of the release of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I was very excited, and finally the game was released. And I suppose the first thing to note, the first thing that's going to be worthwhile having in a survey of the archaeology of Tears of the Kingdom is going to be this stuff. It's Zonai ruins beneath Hyrule Castle, and we have our first look at what turn out to be Zonai people there. Now, actually, how they relate to some of the statues that we saw in Breath of the Wild is going to be, I think, an interesting one as well. Oh, no, I did not mean to press that. So, yeah, I'm going to put here Zonai ruins on and underground, I think. That's got to be number one. As for the dragon eggs, actually, interestingly not. What they are is, and we may well see this as we go through the other screenshots, but these are architectural features of Zonai architecture, but they light up as well. They're lamps in other contexts. So it may well be that that these would have lit up at some point, but just not now, not underneath Hyrule Castle. Now I just need to quickly put make sure that that's going to loop. Cool, there we go. But they could be artichokes. This is true. This is very true. Oh, I just zoomed in. How did I zoom in? Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize you could zoom in with the right stick on the Joy-Con. That's handy. Can we zoom in and move around? We can. How funky is that? Okay, so we're off to a good start. Zonai ruins on and underground has to be an aspect of this, and we can see how they've interacted with early Hyrulean architecture, which is something which I did identify in the Breath of the Wild Archaeological Survey. And you can see as well how these aspects of Zonai architecture here on the ground is a slightly more, forgive the pun, or forgive the unintentional pun, grounded. That is to say, more sort of bricks and mortar. You can see how this is put together, but it has aspects of what we eventually see up in the sky, in the Zonai ruins that have appeared, and the islands that have appeared above Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom. The brickwork here is seamless in comparison. So maybe there's something there. Maybe what we see on the ground and underground could be contrasted with the ruins we see on the islands. Possibly. So I'll make a note of that. Contrast with the Sky Islands. I think that could work, actually. That could be quite cool. This would be a great presentation for grade schools. Oh, possibly. But for now, I'm just I have no plan. This is partly me making the plan. Now, something that did stand out to me actually was the weird and interesting sort of architectural flourishes of the Zonai ruins. The way that you have these sort of squared, tapering pillars that taper upwards or indeed taper downwards, top to bottom or bottom to top. And then these features that almost look like wings in the architecture as well, which is interesting given that the Zonai have an affinity, it's clear, to birds, but they're not birds themselves. So yeah, it's something to keep an eye on, I guess. Plus, as well, something that I noticed in this one is that we have this interesting, what looks like possibly even a pattern carved into the stonework there, peeking through. But actually on this one, it's not. Oh, actually, it is sort of present. You can see that it's there. It just hasn't broken through. Maybe it's a seam in the rock which has eroded away. Maybe it's an intentional pattern. Not sure. Not sure. Exactly. That's precisely, David. Precisely. That's a good question. But I do think that you can see the lines where it would be sort of peeking through just above actually your name there on screen. Weathered relief possibly, and maybe it's weathered through. We do see that in stonework in the real world, and also it's hinted at in the archaeology of Breath of the Wild and in turn Tears of the Kingdom. So yeah. We have here, again, I'm hoping all these screenshots, I'm going to remember why I took them, because I was very excited. When I first started playing this game, I was just, frankly, I still love it. And I do need to get back to it. Also, I'm enjoying No Man's Sky right now and Skyrim. But again, it's that motif of the tapered, sort of squared pillars that taper, in this instance, again, from top to bottom. I'm curious about that, and I'm wondering if there's going to be something that we can see as we do our survey that will account for it. Lots of dragon motifs. This is something that we definitely saw in the Zonai ruins on the ground, and you see there we have our artichoke lights there. So they do light up. On the Sky Islands, they light up, but seemingly below ground, they didn't or haven't. You don't have to make a bunch of saves to explore them, actually. One of the things I'm going to be doing in upcoming live streams following this session of making a plan is having a stream that focuses on each of these aspects, and then editing those down into a video about that aspect. That's the plan anyway. And perhaps, not even perhaps, I think almost certainly there's going to have to be an element of, after the stream, going back and recording elements from Breath of the Wild for comparison, because I haven't got two Switches that I can swap out and show. Although I don't know, technically we might be able to. I don't know. I'll think about it. But yes, very Mayan, very Mesoamerican, and actually at the time for Breath of the Wild, interestingly, the Guccini Plains Barrows and the I believe it's the Faron jungle. I've forgotten the name of the jungle now. But the jungle ruins around the Dragon Lake, Draguzo Lake, were clearly connected. I sort of posited the connection before it was confirmed, in fact, which was quite cool. The archaeology was so well integrated that you're able to do that. And it struck me as something that was sort of Mesoamerican. And I thought it's clearly the inspiration for it. But also, in addition to these dragon motifs, we have as well these repeating concentric circular motifs, and also as well a penchant for writing as well on the walls, which is, funnily enough, you just said Chinese art, actually, dragon bone motifs, which actually there is a dragon bone artifact in the game. Dragon bones are sort of cracked, burnt cattle bones, often the shoulder bones for cows in ancient China, which would be thrown, having inscribed on it a sort of a ritual or a question. You throw it on the fire, and how it cracks in the fire reveals something. And some of those inscriptions look in their sort of striation. I'm not just saying this because it's a sort of it's not an alphabetic language. But the actual way that it's written on the walls here is very reminiscent of that. And again, I wouldn't be at all surprised if there was some cultural inspiration common to that. We also see, again, just there next to where my face is on the stream now, that motif repeated, that sort of weathering possibly that we identified on those other stone remains. So it's a possibility. It's a possibility. Now, do tell me if the volume is loud enough on the music, or if it's hopefully it's not too loud. This is inside the Temple of Time, which itself is also a curious structure. Again, it's narrow at the bottom, wide at the top, reminiscent of Japanese sort of pagodas or temples, obviously in that sense. You can barely hear the music. Okay, cool. Turn it up a little bit. There you go. But again, narrow at the bottom, wide at the top. It's an interesting thing that keeps happening, and there is, I know, in game something that happens on top of the temple that gives you an explanation as to why these islands are where they are. So I'm going to have to try and haven't yet managed to get that to happen. You have to go back into the game and make it happen. There's a certain thing you have to do, a challenge. So yeah, everything's floating, water, and the use of these dragon heads as well to sort of direct water, in this case off some of the islands, is again a bit of a motif. Once again, we have here just the left of Link, another wide at the top, narrow at the bottom, but also clearly a sort of a love of crisp, clean lines with places for things like, for example, gravel. So we have gravel there with some simple planting, again reminiscent of Buddhist temples, and having a sort of a sense of the naturalistic qualities of individual stones, but very much within their lane. Amongst these larger blocks and paving slabs. So yeah. So this is having landed in Hyrule after the opening of the game, and we can see ruins. We can see a sky island up there in the sky. We can see ruins which have landed in different places in Hyrule. Obviously, the donut ring back there is one of the more dramatic landings out of the sky above a village, actually. So it's there's plenty to see, and immediately we have some of these barrow-like structures. Now, interestingly, this I imagine I took as a comparison, because in Breath of the Wild, the one immediately in front of me here is the standard for what we identified as a Zonai burial marker. Tall, thin, hexagonal, I think. So sort of six-sided going up and then fluting out at the top. But then on the right there, we have a pillar which is much closer to the islands that we've just come from, the floating islands, narrow at the bottom, wide at the top, and they're both from seemingly the same culture. So I'm wondering if there was a split at some point, if there was a ground-based Zonai and there was a sky dwelling Zonai at the same time. And there are certain scenarios that unfold in the game that actually are kind of hint at that, actually. Like Doric and Corinthian. Sort of, yeah, sort of. I suppose the main difference there being being things like fluting, complexity, especially at the top and the bottom. Absolutely. So, yeah, it could be. But in that sense, both Doric and Corinthian pillars are Greek. So they're both Zonai. They're just different Zonai. I was very happy to see that middens are still in the game, and I suppose actually I could revisit middens. I mean, I might not make a note of that just yet. I did a big a video examining middens in Breath of the Wild, including the Uber midden, this massive, great big midden in the southwest of the map in the first game. Yeah, these guys, these are very interesting, ancient, pre-Hylian gods whose statues are found below the earth, and see, all of this is actually the result of an excavation that's ongoing. Not only are there islands in the sky in Tears of the Kingdom, but also holes have opened up in the ground. And I suppose a question of what's going on here. So here we have a guy who's got a god-like being that's got 4 eyes and a mouth and a nose, and has seemingly a sort of a strange relationship to the more orthodox religion in Hyrule, namely the worship of Hylia, the 4 goddesses below her, I think. No, above her, sorry, and then the sages as well. So yeah, I'm going to make a note of that. Underground slash depths. I guess culture, actually, because that's what's happening here. Is that the Hylians are bringing this stuff up out of the ground, and they're examining it because they're curious. And here we actually have an example of the Zonai Survey team, who are going up and down. Well, they haven't gone up, sorry, but they're looking up, looking at the ruins which have fallen, and they are also examining where they can, the depths underground. So actually, that's another aspect here, isn't it? Is the Zonai Survey team maybe assessing their work, possibly trying to understand what their goals are. Are they going about it in a reasonable way? I guess that's a question, isn't it? Would I want to be on the Zonai Survey team? Don't know. Not sure. I guess we'll have to see. And clearly they're recruiting from all over the place. And finding missions. They're being active, which actually is quite a contrast to Breath of the Wild, where people feel a bit more sedate and locked away, hiding in their towns and villages, not really making plans or even trying to rebuild in any meaningful way. The only places that are actually really thriving are places that weren't touched by the calamity in Breath of the Wild. So here we have, post the events of the first game, people making plans and seeking to understand the world around them, and of course writing newspapers. The newspapers actually are quite interesting, for again, just implying a sense of sort of broader culture and connection that really wasn't there in Breath of the Wild. We also get to see more in this section of the game. There's a sort of essentially a bunker in the center of Lookout Landing, where people are hunkered down, but also going out from there. And you get to see a bit more of, I guess, a living, but also adapted Hylian architecture. So that archway has clearly been sort of turned into a bookshelf. Yeah, as you say, a bit like a hobbit hole, actually. Yeah, absolutely. A bookshelf in the same way that a student might, in the 70s, get a whole load of blocks of wood or railway sleepers and sort of, cobble something together. So, yeah, there's something there as well, isn't there? Actually, something else to make a note of is Hylian recovery. And I guess what I'm going to have to do with these these categories is maybe in some cases put them one or two together into the same stream or video. So it's not all going to be, I'm not going to end up with like 20. Although again, I might end up with 20 separate live streams I need to do. Who knows? Zonai. Zonai architecture is instantly identifiable because of the machines. Do you ever stack books, Fault, like if they are too tall for the shelf? Stack books flat? Yes, I do. I have, actually. I try not to. Sometimes they sort of go above. So I'll have books on the shelf and then one or two on top. But yes, all of these gadgets, these elements of machinery that can be used in the game to make other machines and broader constructs, are going to be a matter of, I guess, consideration for how they fit in with this sort of high technology precursor civilization, I guess. Also, you can see up there in the top right, we have the concentric circle motifs in some sort of force field barrier. So not carved onto stone in this instance, but actually there in energy, sort of shimmering away. So yeah, that's a thing, isn't it? Out and about with my horse. And looking at some of the flora. Yeah, in the depths we have these structures where ghosts of people who seemingly were alive above ground exist on top of small pedestals, and they offer you untarnished weaponry. All the weaponry across the overworld has been wrecked by the events at the beginning of this game. A sort of a blight has malice has ruined all the metallurgy except this stuff underground. And this is one as well, actually, being underground when we are this again. These screenshots are just as I took them, so they're by no means meant to be an overview of the story. And if you haven't played the game, and I apologize if this is at all confusing for you, but in this instance, what we have here is the Yiga clan. The Yiga are an inverse of the Sheikah. They are literally, actually, they have the Sheikah symbol upside down as their motif there, and they work against you as the hero of time, the hero of the game. Well, I guess not the hero of time in this one, is it? But as Link, they work against you, whereas the Sheikah work to support you, to support the mission against Ganon, the big bad guy. So technically the Yiga are working they're working towards Ganon's goals, but not necessarily with his blessing or even necessarily with his knowledge, it seems. They're just anti-Link and pro-Ganon. Looks like Stephen King's symbol of the Crimson King. Okay, I'll have to look that up. But again, here we have recognizable sort of Japanese motifs, really. Again, similar, more actually traditional sort of pagoda-like structures, in so much as it's narrower at the top and wider at the bottom. All made out of the flora and the wood that you can find in the depths underneath Hyrule. And I guess this as I'll have to put it into context in the stream, I guess, when I do it. But this as an expression of what the Yiga do next, given that in Breath of the Wild they are hiding in a desert cave, basically, and it's not until you knock their leader down a big hole that this happens. Suddenly they start to explore what's down there. So in some ways, actually, if you hadn't done that in the first game, they wouldn't have known what was down here, but they start exploring. and they start setting up these little bases everywhere. Also, note the flora having this sort of almost peacock feathers in some instances. That's a I don't know, a big kind of like a tree, kind of like bamboo sticking out of the ground, and with its leaves as sort of like peacock feathers. Quite nice. More Yiga structure here. Again, all of it is reclaiming elements of the environment around them. Fairly crude, but also actually fairly, at the same time, intricate structures. And what we also see are, again, aspects of Japanese religious life, Shintoism and this kind of thing. I believe those blocks of wood hanging from the strings are blessing tokens, I seem to recall. So that's something that I'll have to confirm and check. This is me trying to cross a very big river, a very wide river in the game. It's very stubbornly because it was raining and I couldn't climb. I was desperately trying to get this thing, linked all these bits of wood together to try and get this to work. And I can't remember if oh no, there you go. It looks like I did. Looks like I did. The flow of the water was sort of wedging it onto each side of the river there. But it was fun, but it's the sort of fun that's also just a little bit frustrating, and I did quite enjoy that. This screenshot reflects change. Change is a key part of the relationship between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and what we see here, in case it's not entirely clear, is in the Forgotten Temple, which is sort of central west in the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom Hyrule map. There is this massive statue of the goddess. She is here. You can see her head. She's got some wings there. She's toppled, so she's lying on her front, and she's toppled from her base, which was there. And this has, as I've talked about in the Breath of the Wild Archaeological Survey videos, has connections to Skyward Sword, actually. It's not the right scale, but it's meant to be, I think, the statue that lands at the end of Skyward Sword. And then a temple is built around it. You have this early Hylian architecture, which surrounds a sort of an avenue that leads away from where she landed. But in this game, not only has she landed and toppled, but also there's something behind her. Does the game itself have you doing archaeology to some degree? Yes, it does. There are archaeologists in the game. There's in this game actually. No, in Breath of the Wild there were two archaeologists. One is a Hylian on the way to Hateno village, who's examining a graveyard and also the ruins of a battle that took place 100 years prior. And the second one is she is in the Gerudo town in the desert, and she is an archaeologist. Yeah, so there are archaeologists in the game, and in Tears of the Kingdom, in this game, the Zonai survey team has archaeologists. Actually, Professor Calip from the first game becomes a member of the team, and they have missions for you to sort of go and look up stuff or try and translate stuff and this sort of thing. You don't do digging, you don't do recording in that sense, but you do some of this this sort of work. Is Link reincarnated then? This version of Link is, I think every version of Link is a reincarnated spirit of the hero. So he has the Triforce of Courage on the back of his hand. The Princess Zelda has the Triforce of Wisdom, and Ganon has the Triforce of Power. And so this Link is in that sense reincarnated. Yeah. Late period Hylian script. Yes, I believe so. Yeah. So yeah, so I guess change is going to be a factor, isn't it? Change, what has changed, and also how I narrow that down to the archaeological interests is going to be an interesting thought for a stream, because everything has changed. Everything and nothing has changed in this game. You know where places are, and actually part of the joy of this as a sequel, direct sequel, is that it plays with those expectations. And this is one of the examples of that. You come into this space, it's no longer got the not monsters, the mechanical dangers that were there, but it has got the statue toppled. And then of course you're curious, so you follow in behind the statue, and you find this. This is a Zonai structure behind what was basically early Hylian architecture. And we identified this style of architecture in the Breath of the Wild survey, because it's mirrored in the Akala region and in some other places in the southwest of the map before you get to the desert. This color of stone, this type of structure was here. Again, we definitely have Zonai, and another map of Hyrule. It's like those maps with model rivers sometimes of Mercury. Yes, absolutely. It's very reminiscent of the description of the map in Qin, isn't it? In the first Emperor of China's tomb. Except in this instance, we don't have Mercury, thank goodness. We just have more of these concentric circle motifs, which I think are meant to be sort of reminiscent of Zen gardens, where you sort of have people raking the stones and creating patterns. So yeah. Yes, supposedly there's a mote of Mercury, there's a map of Mercury. Uncharitably, some people online, some journalists hear this and realise that the Emperor's Tomb hasn't been opened yet, and they say archaeologists are too scared to go in and do a survey. It's not that at all. It's the fact that permissions are a factor. What on earth to do with this structure? It's such a central structure to the history of China that they're working up to it. I think there's the terracotta warriors for now. There's some other tombs that have been uncovered. But exactly, they don't want to tear up the whole site, and I don't blame them. Actually, I really don't. No, I mean, it might seem controversial, but then again, in recent days we've seen this sort of thing coming out around Stonehenge as well in recent months. But some archaeologists seem to forget that not everything actually has to be dug up. And that may seem weird. It may seem as though, but what we could learn so much cool stuff if we just dug it up. Yeah, but yeah. One of the more responsible things. Yeah, exactly. It is quite responsible. And if it does happen, if and when it does happen, presumably it's going to take decades, and it should take decades. It probably is going to take a lifetime or more. Now here we have, this is another aspect of Zonai architecture that I'm trying to reconcile with the other stuff. And this might actually represent a third branch of the Zonai. It's colourful. It's seemingly the colours are painted onto the stone. And it seems like a colourful version of the dragon, possibly the same sort of culture that creates the dragon motifs. Slightly, again, Mesoamerican, I would say. This is another chunk of the Sky Islands that has landed on the ground in Hyrule, and I don't know. So it makes me think of Peruvian archaeology, oddly enough. But yeah, I guess, let's see, Zonai survey team. Yeah, contrast with Sky Islands, and then also I'm going to have to add to that, aren't I? Contrast with painted stones. Yeah, it's going to be part of it. I think it's going to be part of it. More ancient, large stones, simpler forms. Possibly. And again, their location in the map is going to be important to note, although I think there are, on the ground, they're more concentrated in a particular place. I think in the sky, they're a bit wider, spread out, but there's a broad correlation. So that's going to be something to look at and to think about. Oh, I made a butter stick. A butter blade. An 8-fold blade combined with butter. Wonderful. And I wonder if I think it does actually. It gives you 1 extra hit point to have butter on your sword, apparently. So why not? But yes, definitely Mesoamerican feel to it. Absolutely, Lord Engine. Absolutely. So next, more of this stuff. This is basically in the sky above the Rito village. So here we have our Rito pal who joins us for that part of the game. And you have to make your way higher and higher in the sky using these structures to get up and up and up and up. And there we go. Some of them are in a state of disrepair. Others are not. We can see there some broken aspects of architecture. But again, that Mesoamerican kind of flavor to it. This is inside the dungeon, I guess. I'm solving a puzzle here by attaching something to a block so I can maneuver the block out. Not the block, sorry, the treasure chest out of its confinement and retrieve it. I do love this game. It's so flexible. Addison. Now, this isn't so much for the Archaeological Survey. Addison is fascinating. He goes around building these signs, which you have to help him sort of stand up because he's really incompetent. He builds these signs, in this instance probably just with a point on the ground, and then doesn't realise how he's actually going to help them to stand up. And you can see just behind the signage there's these sort of 2 overarching protrusions that I've put a great big plank of wood there with a series of other supports stuck together, just to give him some ability to let go of the sign, and then we can all get on with our day. And it's one of the things I did enjoy about this game. I really do enjoy, actually. We still haven't done all of his sign puzzles and problems. What am I doing here? Oh yes, this is going to come under the change topic. The moment I realised I could do this in this game was a thing of beauty. In the first game, and let's see if I can just I can pause it. Okay, so can we go back? In the first game, in Breath of the Wild, one of the first things that I noted was this area here, which is a flooded zone behind the wall that separates the upper plateau, the starting plateau in Breath of the Wild, from the rest of Hyrule. And I remember looking down through the water and identifying this pathway that leads up to the Temple of Time on the plateau, not the Temple of Time that we see up in the Sky Islands. And when you get down onto ground level, you can see that there's this blocked door at ground level, and the fact that they gave you the ability to open that up, drain the water out of that flooded access, was, again, it felt that in this moment, the reason why I recorded this is that in this moment it felt like they'd made this game for me. It was like, oh yeah, you liked that, did you? Well, here you go. Here's something that you won't be able to resist giving a go, and that really will augment that experience. And it was a thing of beauty. And again, just reinforces that theme of change and time depth, which was built into the landscape of Breath of the Wild. And now we have here, being writ large, this relationship between the past, the present, and then the future. In that sense, you're playing the future in relation to Breath of the Wild. It's just fantastic. Anyway, I liked this. This is the Yiga characterizing Link as a monster, as a demon, going around, an Oni going around terrorizing them. Just like the poster. And then we see the Temple of Time, as built by the Hylians on the plateau. The ruin there. Again, doesn't really bear much resemblance to the Temple of Time that presumably precedes it in the Zonai, on the Zonai floating islands. So, yeah, that's interesting. I did do a lot of looking. I looked at the Temple of Time. I looked at Hyrule Castle in the Breath of the Wild survey. So I don't know. Maybe something will come out of it in terms of a contrast with the Zonai, possibly. I don't know. This is in the depths. We have some broken down Zonai equipment. This is a conveyor belt that's seized up long ago. And I guess a question about I've already made a note, haven't I, about underground Zonai here. Maybe there's going to have to be more than one Zonai video or one Zonai live stream, because in this instance, the scale of the infrastructure that they built in the depths and their mining of resources is clearly for a purpose, and it's extremely organized. So yeah, yes, Hyrule Castle in Breath of the Wild was a thing of beauty, and it's a thing of beauty in Tears of the Kingdom as well. Again, I love the mechanics in this game. I love the fact that you can stick stuff together and make things work in all manner of different ways. And at this point, I was just enjoying the fact that I was playing this game. I think I remember taking this or trying to get this shot, basically. Yeah, just wonderful. I guess you've got this theme of butt balloon. Yep. Excuse me. You can see that Link is sort of looking at, in the distance, a tower with 4 spotlights coming from the base, and that's on the ground. This is, I think, a different one of those towers. Thank you, Nolan. Thank you. One of those towers, which is a repurposed structure. Well, actually, a couple of different repurposed structures from Breath of the Wild. And I think maybe there's going to be, I don't know if that's strictly archaeological, but anthropological, actually, is the way in which the Hyruleans have parted out these structures that appeared across the landscape in Breath of the Wild, and have made their own launches, these things that launch you into the sky, so you can do a survey of what has changed. Again, they're aware of this change, and they're aware of the need to understand it. So I guess Hyrule adaptations, or Hyrulean adaptations would be an interesting one. And yeah, I'll just make a note that that's anthropological as opposed to archaeological. So yeah, Amth. Well, that looks like Orth, A-N-T-H. There you go. And I've already made a note of Hylian recovery, so I guess that's going to be part of that, I suppose. But yeah, interesting. We also have actually this area here in Breath of the Wild was shrouded in darkness. It's shrouded in darkness throughout the whole game. You can't actually see this structure and the shape of the structure and how all these different pillars really relate to each other. So having it open to the elements in Tears of the Kingdom was a real treat, actually. This is more Zonai architecture, and again, you can see how weathered it is, how moss-laden it is. Also painted as well, actually. Now that we point it out, you can see the red paint on that guy. Angkor Wat, yeah, kind of like Angkor Wat in terms of Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, very sort of, yeah, Hindu as opposed to Buddhist, actually. But with the dragons that sort of seemingly are a little bit Mesoamerican. Is the geography did the geography mostly the same for Tears of the Kingdom? Sorry, is the geography mostly the same for Tears of the Kingdom? I think that would be a first. The geography is basically the same, but the changes they've made across the map, both subtle and massive, really make it a worthy successor. People have talked about how Tears of the Kingdom, in the build-up to the game, but also now, even now, some cynical folk say, "Oh, it's just DLC. It should have just been DLC," and that's not the case at all. There's so much of this game which really, in that sense, fulfills Breath of the Wild. Some aspects of Breath of the Wild's promise for exploration, for the mechanics of manipulating the world around you, and also supposedly actually development tools, dev tools, were incorporated into the game. So, for example, when the developers were making Breath of the Wild, they had tools like the ability to jump up through a floor and swim, to the next level, which they incorporated into this game as a gameplay element because they were enjoying themselves doing the game development. So, precisely, yeah. Are we living in the DLC of prehistory? Yeah, or Tudor England or something. Another example of the depths here. Again, you can see the conveyor belt structures leading to storage, leading to places where material could be put into mine carts and transported across the map. So there we can see an example of the minecart tracks there, broken. Also, I love this texture here. It's a texture that's very reminiscent of obviously fossils, dried out or ancient coral reefs, limestone, absolutely. And actually, there's a mountain. I say a mountain. It's a big hill, almost a mountain, which is basically right next to where my house was in Wales. It's a quarter of a mile up the road, and I would walk up it and climb it all the time, which was in deep prehistory, so before human beings were around. It was a coral reef in North Wales, and when it dried up, when the waters went away, it collapsed onto itself and compressed and became limestone. And this makes me think of that and feel. It's also interesting as well. It's very reminiscent of the opening of the Ghibli movie Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, where she's in the toxic forest, and in many ways the underground, the depths in Tears of the Kingdom, are basically the opening of Ghibli's Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, or sorry, Miyazaki's Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Technically, Ghibli didn't exist at that point. Studio Ghibli didn't exist at that point. And that's no bad thing. They're taking inspiration from geology, from influential manga and anime, and running with it. This is a hunky man. He is Ghibli and Ghibli. I always forget which one is technically correct, but it's been pointed out by, for example, the wonderful Michelle Franklin, that technically you can say either. I think it's Ghibli. I think, but of course I would say that because that's the one I always go to, I guess. But yeah, this is the hunky man who is a member of one of the leaders of the Zonai survey efforts, and he's just very big. That's it, Toro. Yeah, with his magnifying glass around his neck. He's so funny in that sense. He was clearly iconic for a lot of people. Toro's an amazing person, and he's a first-rate archaeologist too. There you go. He's an archaeologist in this game, and well loved by everyone around him. That's true, actually. Yeah, without the shirt, the magnifying glass could give him a burn. Yeah, that would be a shame. That would be a real shame. Although you can see he's got a scar there on his forearm, both forearms actually. So maybe that's where he has been burned by the magnifying glass. Link is cursed to be short and left-handed for all of eternity. Actually, I can't remember if is he right or left-handed in this game. In the Wii version of Twilight Princess, he's right-handed. They mirrored the entire game so as to make it so that you could waggle with your right hand and control the sword. Which is interesting, because I played it first of all on the GameCube, and then Twilight Princess was a surreal experience with everything just... And it's funny how you learn these places. Very smart to do that. Remarkable, actually. And in that sense, not only were they solving that problem, but also they gave people another reason to buy the game, because playing it flipped is a whole new challenge. It's kind of like the master mode, or the game plus mode or something. So here we see in what's the village called? It's not Kakariko Village. Or is it Kakariko? No, it is Kakariko Village in this version, isn't it? But it's where the Sheikah live, not where the forest people live. So I've been playing other Zelda games, but yeah, we can see here again where as Zonai structure has fallen, toppled onto its side, and wedged itself into the mountainside there. And again, this is another example of how the landscape is the same, but also is changed as time has progressed and dramatic things have happened. Here we go. Here's Professor Calip. It does look, like one of those, the ball game where they always show people, don't they, bashing the ball off their elbow and through the loops in those courtyards. Professor Calip, Dr. Calip. If that applies to an archaeologist like me, it certainly applies to an amateur like you, he says. He's a bit pretentious and protective of his research. And I guess actually what I'm going to have to do is, and this might mean playing the game from scratch. He's just like you. Fuck off. I might have to replay the game so as to get some of his best stuff, and actually a couple of the different archaeologists' best stuff happening for the first time, because I think their dialogue changes as the game progresses. But yeah, I think so. We've got the Zonai Survey team. That's gonna that encompasses it, actually, doesn't it? I think so. So Zonai Survey team incorporates people like Calip, and yes, lack of beard, -1 point exactly. And here again we have the Zonai Survey team. In this instance, they've set up a vantage point with which to look down into one of the pits that leads to the depths below Hyrule. This was me screen grabbing the logo for the Zonai Survey team, which is clearly incorporated a compass with a laurel wreath and starburst motif for the Zonai Survey team badges that I put on the Etsy store. There you go. They're not all horrible. This person saying that they could use an inquisitive mind like Link's to help out. There we go. We of the Zonai Survey team were founded and tasked by Princess Zelda to study ruins and ancient documents. Through the lens of archaeological understanding it is her hope that we will uncover the deep history of Hyrule. Due to the upheaval, many ruins from the Zonai civilization came crashing down from the sky. We have known very little of the Zonai, but we may now have the evidence that their culture once flourished in the sky above, which is interesting. Again, it's an interesting assertion that they were in the sky above, even though there are Zonai ruins on the ground as well. So, game definitely has the whole. I mean, Breath of the Wild basically was a Zelda tribute to the style of Studio Ghibli. The sort of cel shaded, but a step towards something akin to somewhere in between Twilight Princess and Toon Link of The Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass, etc. Yeah. Skyward Sword, yeah, similar to Skyward Sword, having islands in the sky, definitely. Chief Executive is Taro, the first individual in the world to find a clue deciphering Zonai scripts. Hence, he has his magnifying glass to examine Zonai scripts. This was quite nice as well. This is a new addition that the Hylians made to Hyrule, Zelda seemingly commissioned, and that is the memorializing the events of the calamity 100 and a bit years ago, I guess at this point, but 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild. Now that things are settling down, now that people are rebuilding, the princess commissioned memorials, and understandable, quite right, and again, a very healthy societal thing to do, you know. The art style, it does all go back to those classic woodblock prints. Rats, what's his name? The guy, the views of Mount Fuji. His name's on the tip of my tongue. I've got a beautiful set of beautiful buckle about them with all the prints in them. A Calamity is Ganon wins post-Twilight Princess, isn't it? I can't quite remember which. Well, actually, we don't know. Hakusai, that's it, yes, that's it. Hirosije too. Cool, yes, that's right. Hokusai, that's it, Hokusai. We don't know, actually. They haven't confirmed. All they've said is that so Calamity Ganon, in the events that precede Breath of the Wild, that 100 years before, was the same Ganon that had attacked 1,000 years before that. And that's all they say. And they imply this repeated cycle, so the Ganon keeps coming back, and it was established in Skyward Sword that Ganon was an incarnation of an evil spirit, godlike being called, can't quite remember his name now, but basically you defeat him, you bury him in the ground at the end of Skyward Sword. But it's a curse on the land. But the reason why I say we don't know is that Nintendo themselves have just said, yes, this is at the end of the timeline, or the possible timelines, the branching timelines, and in some ways it unifies them, because we have aspects of, for example, the Koroks appear in the timeline where Link is unsuccessful in Ocarina of Time, and Hyrule is flooded, hence the Wind Waker world. But Koroks are here. We have other bits and bobs that come from other branches, so we're not sure. I mean, this is where examining these games is interesting for a couple of reasons. On the one hand, they are an artifact in themselves. They're a cultural creation. They've been designed by humans, and in this instance, clearly Breath of the Wild was there to celebrate everything that came before. But also, as well, they have their own narrative, their own history, their own in-world lore and background. And Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom has been one of the best Zelda games, possibly even one of the best games, full stop, in terms of the ability to interpret the landscape and the structures that you see. And so clearly they have a sense of it having a history, but where exactly it is and which is the most sort of influential branch is unclear at this time. Just another angle, just outside the ruins of Hateno Fort there, or Fort Hateno. Again, you can see Hylian architecture, and then it's been sort of hurriedly filled in with the wooden palisades there, where they were under attack in the battle 100 and a bit years ago. Yeah, it is kind of Gothic, very European in that sense. Very Gothic, but also more influenced. This is influenced clearly by the early Hylian, which itself is sort of Doric Greek. There's a chunkiness and a roundness, like that gate shape is so not medieval. Your real world European medieval. If it was going to be rectangular, it'd be rectangular. Having these sort of curved things that are almost like an arch, but then has a straight top, a bit strange, you know. It could be interesting actually. There's a really I might have shared it on the Discord. There's a VR version of the first game someone has made, and that looks like fun actually. So this is me experimenting with making a vehicle, I think. It was very difficult because I didn't have the right number of wheels. I tried to make basically a bike, and then with a stabilizer wheel, a little wheel at the back that was stabilizing it, and it kind of worked, kind of like a tractor, but also it wasn't great. It wasn't a great vehicle, but clearly I was proud of it because I kept on screen grabbing it. Oh yeah, here we have oh, sorry, my brain's gone again. The desert people. We have the fact that the warriors are now going out into Hyrule in search of love. There was one in the first game who was on top of one of the mountains, and you could sort of help her, I do believe, meet her partner. But now we have far more, because again, this is a time of relative peace. So people are out there looking to live their lives. The name will come back to me. Now, what is this? Is this looking up? Is this inside a tree? I'm not sure. I took a screen grab for some reason though. This is riding a dragon in the depths. That was good fun. It's quite interesting because the dragons actually in this game go underground, and their loop takes you under and then overground and then underground and overground. It's quite pleasing actually. And it was magical the first time I experienced it. Again, hence all of the screen grabs. This intrigued me. This is a massive skeleton, which we can see here. I've gone into the map of the depths. You can see the scale of the ribs there, and the spinal column of a creature that's even more massive than the dragons. So I'm riding a dragon here. They are truly huge, and it's not clear what they are. They're also bigger than the what were they called? The elemental whales, the giant sky whales, the skeletons that were in the Breath of the Wild. Two games feel like the Wheel of Time in that it's post-apocalyptic society. Post-apocalyptic society. Yeah, Well, it is. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And actually, some of my favourite fiction. I haven't read the Wheel of Time series, but or seen it on TV. But some of my favourite fiction is that, actually, and it's I quite like the hopefulness of rebuilding. It's one of those reasons why I kind of got a little bit bored of The Walking Dead, actually, the TV series, because it just kept on going back into people are shit, people are horrible, people are going to do grim and fucked up things to each other. Whereas I'd much rather see people thriving, people trying to build communities. And you could say that doesn't make for good drama, but the problem is they kept on destroying what they'd built. You know, it kept on being destroyed. Whereas something a bit more persistent, yeah. Walking Dog was a slug after the first season. To be fair, Nolan, I said the F word earlier as well. Actually, I wasn't sure if you'd catch me. It can be a slog after the first season. I don't know. I quite liked season 3 and 4. I liked aspects of when they got to Washington. Season 9 was quite good fun. But I'm just not remotely in. Was that season 10 possibly? But I'm not really interested in what happened in season 11. I started watching it, and I just didn't care about this new group of, was it the Commonwealth or something that they'd bumped into? Just didn't care, because it became at that point not really much about the apocalypse. Even though, ironically enough, and I know I'm rambling here, we're off topic, but ironically enough, Zelda games, zombie movies at their best use the monsters to focus in on human nature, don't they? It's not really about the monsters, it's about what people do when there are monsters around. But ironically, that also means within that fiction you don't have to focus on the people. Strangely enough, you have to show how people behave, not have this sort of intrigue of, oh, there's this multi-layered society out there which may or may not have nefarious inner workings. Ugh, yeah. Anyway, so again, they go. We have a massive, huge skeleton, which seemingly is in place before the Zonai come along and start building their structures in and around them. So clearly they were sort of uncovering these bones, these deep bones from deep time. These might be the equivalents of Hyrulean dinosaurs. I don't know. What? You're not a Zonai survey team researcher? You're just some guy? Again, the Zonai survey team are quite interesting. Yeah, it's possible actually. Maybe it fell asleep under the bridge. That is possible. And then massive geological processes happened around it. Yeah, entirely possible. Monolith research. Yes, I remember this. There was a series of small things to find in and around those ruins. Again, you were sort of recruited by the team, the survey team. So here we are at the with Hylians working with the Gorons. In the first game, in Breath of the Wild, again, everyone's very separated out, not much in the way of travel happening, and there are adventurers roaming the land, but they don't settle down. They don't actually make businesses, for example. They aren't really necessarily helping each other in many ways. But yeah, we see that here with Hylian settling in, and I love the hard hat. One of the first things I did actually was I screen grabbed the hard hat the Gorons were wearing and superimposed it onto Link's head for the thumbnails for the Breath of the Wild Archaeological Survey. And I like that here we have hats for humans, hats for Hylians. They really get that some archaeologists can be snobs. Yeah. Got an online doc appointment, going to have to scoot. You take care, Cylon. I didn't know you were there. You take care, Cylon. I shall catch you later. Thank you for hanging around. And good luck. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. I'm just trying to get a closer look at the hard hat in this particular screen grab. And there we have one of the Goron kids with an adorable hard hat on his head. Again, I just couldn't resist. Look at him. Look at that face. Oh, bless him. So yeah, the weapons are decayed. That's what I was getting at earlier. The upheaval has led to a decay of all of the weapons above ground. The weapons, the boots, the armor. They're black Goron. I don't think they're... Well, I think they're different shades. Yeah. So I think you have darker and lighter Gorons. Yeah. So here we have a blacksmith who's trying to make stuff work, make the old metal work, but it doesn't last for long. I've commented on this elsewhere, but in that sense, it was an amazing thing. They're all rock colored, exactly, just like rocks are different colors. It's a really clever response to the complaint that some people had that Breath of the Wild, the weapons don't last for long. Why their weapons have to break after a while when you're using them? And as I pointed out in a video I made a little while ago on Soup's IV, Nintendo went, fine, we'll break everything. They did not back down. They didn't say, okay, fine, we'll have a couple of weapons that will never break and you can use them if you want. No, they said, we're going to break everything. We're going to make it so that everything is completely ruined. And you're going to have to make your own weapons. You have to stick stuff together. You have to, adapt. Clever. A big brain move there from Nintendo. Fallout did that too. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Ugh. Absolutely. And I like that. Also, I quite like the tools that this blacksmith has here. Has a brush for cleaning off rust and dirt, wooden mallet, metal hammer, tongs, a crucible, working by lamplight. Again, this is in the bunker at Lookout Landing. This was I think a screen grab where I was just noticing two things. First of all, these pillars on this sky island are straight up, straight down columns, square columns, not tapered, and the motif of Zonai treasure chests having these sort of dragon mouths. So actually their treasure was stored within these, as opposed to being like treasure chests that you find elsewhere in this game, Exactly, yeah. I wouldn't be... I was expecting they might go down that route, but no, clearly they didn't, and I don't blame them, actually. This was me trying to get that motif for the badges. That was it. Upside down eye. I suppose, actually, yeah, there is something there of the Sheikah eye upside down. That's a good point. Yeah, definitely. So yes, I grabbed the image successfully. Underground, overground, wombling free. The Wombles of Wimbledon. So some of these screenshots obviously I just took because they're gorgeous to look at. It's genuinely a beautiful game. So here we have examples of, this is early Zonai architecture. So the Zonai architecture that we see in their city is much more seamless. It's Skyrim sword. Nice, I like it. It's much more... almost looks like it's sort of carved out of so I wrote Zonai there, Zora, carved out of ice. Smooth, beautiful architecture. But here we see the same structures but made out of blocks, almost like they're borrowing ideas, or maybe have shared ideas with the early Hylians, but nonetheless have their own cultural motifs. You like the Snow Elf ruins? Oh, I haven't played that yet. I want to know more about that. No, don't tell me more about that. I will go and play it. Because I've been playing through the Solstheim DLC. I've basically completed that now. Obviously, I've been to the Snow Elf statue. Obviously, in the Thieves Guild quests in Skyrim, but I just never finished your game. For some reason, I never got around to playing Dawnguard. Although I did download it for Xbox 360, I just didn't play it. I don't know why. I know a bit about it though, but cool. If there's Snow Elf ruins, I'm gonna have to have a look at those actually. It's not a big spoiler, fortunately. Okay, good to know. So here we go. Here is another one of those sign puzzles. That was my solution, making that sort of triangular roof thing and all those bits and bobs just to hold the sign up using that prong while he secured the bottom so that it wouldn't fall over. I did comment in the Breath of the Wild survey actually on these ruins of wagons that litter the landscape, and they seem to have been remnants of displaced people. So during the calamity, you almost certainly had people who were running, and lots of those actually happened. I think there were 2 or 3 behind the walls of Fort Hateno. So it's almost like people stopped, took a breather, and then a battle took place. But here we have a wagon out in the wild. We have the remnants of some horseshoe prints in the trek there. Much more recent, I think, than the wagon. And yeah, it does look like a Moai statue in the background, doesn't it? It's just one of the fallen island pieces that sort of got these blocks. But I can see what you mean. Yeah, I can see a furrowed brow and a nose there, definitely. Fake Colossus in Britain. Ooh, I'm curious. I'm not sure which one you mean. So this is out and about at the shore. Again, just enjoying building boats and having a good time. Tarrytown. This is Tarrytown. And again, we see Gerudo. That's it. We see Gerudo people have gone out and they're meeting partners. They're getting married. They're having lives away from their town. Again, beautiful imagery. Oh, here we go. Here's another member of the team. I think this is going to have to be a feature of the Zonai Survey team live stream. It's just going to be how grumpy they are. I just want to soothe my poor skin and my bone-tired body. Excavating at Dig Dog Bridge has been exhausting. Ugh. And there's the look on her face. You know, she does look grumpy. Yeah. It was a giant statue of a hill, on a hill, they supposedly toppled over. Okay. I'd like to know more. Definitely share a link. Just like me and my knee. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Oh, my bone tar, my knee. Yeah, absolutely. Here we have an iconic man, dressed in relatively little because he's working in incredibly hot Goron region, but also safety conscious with his hard hat. Iconic in that sort of YMCA way, kind of music video sort of sense. This is me underneath the butt of a statue, and what I do is I actually went up through the butt, because you can pass up through things in this game. I swam up through the butt of the statue and came out of its head in the depths. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, a nice wet fart experience. This is me trying to capture an image of one of the Poe ghosts, again for merch reasons. We made a badge saying "Leave no Poe behind," or "No Poe left behind," I think. Close-up of the battery pack that Link wears, which is an example of, Zonai architecture. Oh, that was me confirming I've been playing 95 hours of this game. And when was that, I wonder? Is there a details button? Can we see any more? No. Okay. But a while ago, 95 hours. Now, why did I catch this? Clearly, I wanted to do something. Oh, right, yes, I'm going to pass up through the log. This is how I passed up through the statue. And there you go. Clearly, I was quite pleased with this solution, I guess. I went up through the butt. Thank you for that, Nolan. Thank you. Just to be clear, folks, in case it's not obvious on screen, Nolan has screen capped that little gem. Life continues. This is the school that's been set up in Hateno Village. Again, we have Sheikah traveling now, doing education, teaching, sharing knowledge. Life is finding a way and rebuilding. Immortal words, I went up through the butt. Yep, absolutely. I really like in this game you can modify your glider with different fabrics, and this is a fabric that is a motif of the egg from Link's Awakening, and of course it was on my glider for a while. That is the helmet from Twilight Princess, Midna's helmet. A helmet much like the one Midna wore when she fought alongside the hero of Twilight. It's a rather rare find. And yes, it does look like Yoshi's egg, doesn't it? Yeah, like a Yoshi egg. So yes, that is Midna's helmet. Yeah, it's one of the ones that you can find below. It also gives you gloom resistance, so you can resist not the malice or the gloom of the toxic substance found in the depths. Now here we have some Gerudo discussing Link, and I just thought this conversation was absolutely hilarious. If we let's just pause it for a second. No, go back to the beginning. Oh, did I have to re-record it? Maybe they're not going to start. I think possibly I was desperately trying to get them to. There we go. We finally managed to leave Gerudo Town. Pause as we go. We finally managed to leave Gerudo Town, they say, and set out in search for Vo, in terms for their term for men. Vo and Vi, I think Vi are women. I wanted to put all our Vo and You lessons to the test, but none of the Vo we've met have measured up. Oh, that reminds me, before we left, I heard someone talking about, oh no, it's gone. Can we? Oh, it keeps on going. Sorry, guys. Basically, they're talking about you, and they don't know it, and they found you less than impressive. None of the Vo have measured up. Talking about the Vo, about a Vo in the outside world, they called him a hero. That's you. You're the hero. That's why I'm like, hi guys, hi ladies. A hero, huh? I bet he's strong, Vo, who's taller than us, even. Not quite. Okay, I'm going to take him out. You mean ask him out, right? Our class did cover how to be the one to make the first move. Anyway, I'm sure it's possible to pursue the hero, but how would we even recognize him? No snoo for Link, no. Legendary hero Oh, the legendary sword. Now I remember, the hero is carrying the legendary sword. And yeah. Actually, I don't think I've come back to them with the Hylian sword, with the Master Sword. That might be a way of getting another conversation with them. So here we have the archaeologist from Gerudo Town. Hylian, you say, are Hylian Bow interested in archaeology? She asks. And in this instance, it's the whole quest around finding these sort of spheres that are marked in the caverns underneath Gerudo Town. So I guess in-game archaeology is a factor here, and maybe in addition to the Zonai, not the Zonai, sorry, the Zonai survey team, maybe in-game archaeologists could be worth another look, because I'm pretty sure I examined them in Breath of the Wild. Yeah, archaeologists, cool. And there is a cannon back there. There is indeed. Even the script on the wall. Billowy trousers would be fun, wouldn't they? The script is it's reminiscent of something. I can't quite remember where I've seen scripts like that before. But it is reminiscent of a script that I've seen in the real world. Algebra. No, it's not really mathematical, I don't think. Although I can see what you mean. Yeah. Harem pants. They are cool trousers, aren't they? And these ladies definitely know how to stay nice and cool in the desert. Oh no, so I've gone back the wrong way. There we go. Oh yeah, this was preparing for a siege, actually, and putting these tree trunks in front of the gate worked surprisingly well, having these blocked off parts where monsters couldn't get in. Here's some archaeology within a pyramid which rises out of the sand behind Gerudo Town, and this is a grave, which is a cyst burial or kist burial, where you have these slabs on top sealing them in. But then also what we have there, you see that motif on the jar? That looks very similar to the motif that we saw up in the sky. And I think what's going to happen with the Zonai ruins is we're going to have to split it up into different regions, aren't we? And have it above and below ground. So, yeah. Oh, you made it! Brilliant, Mindle's mum. Oh, you're stuck in ads. Okay, I'll address you again when you're out of ads. But yeah, so I guess Zonai ruins, underground, overground, contrast with Sky Islands, contrast with painted stones. I guess also, regional, I guess, is going to have to be a thing, isn't it? Regional. Yeah. Hooray! Hello, Mindle's mum. Hello. Good evening. And the pierce work, exactly. Yeah, it's like the holes. I think that's what you're referring to, like the hole that we established and we saw at the beginning of the stream in that stonework. It's an interesting repeating motif, and I wonder what it actually is, what it's trying to depict. You miss bell-bottom pants. You're the friend in hospital. She's fine, just pretty. Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. It looks kind of like a face, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Oh, there you go. We have the same area, but without the orange highlighting going on. Here we have a sword in the burial, which I thought was quite cool. very reminiscent of people being buried with their weaponry. An interesting place to find a fairly hefty Gerudo sword, actually. Nonetheless, this sword is subject to the same decay as all the other metalwork above ground in Hyrule in this game. To make it look like a druid, antlers holding us. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. No? Yes, there are. Yeah, so these motifs do appear under. I'm not sure if I have them in my screen grabs, but they do. Yeah, yeah. Viking style land burial. Well, you know, Viking. Lots of cultures bury people with significant weaponry. It goes all the way back. We see it in the Neolithic. We see it sort of in prehistory, in the Paleolithic as well. Interestingly, though. You can say something about the nature of how they're thinking about afterlife, etc., by the condition of the item, and also how it relates to the living. So, you know, an example in some Norse burials, but also in the Iron Age of Yorkshire, is weapons being deliberately bent out of shape and sort of ritualistically destroyed, so they can't be used by the living. They're so attached to that person that when they die, their weapon dies as well. And that also implies that possibly the weapon had a personality of its own as well. Egyptian, by the look of the tomb. Yeah, it looks I can see that as well. But also, it's set. This is within the pyramid that rises out of the desert, so it's going to have some of that sort of sandy cultural feelings. But again, we have, you know, familiar. We have those triangles. They appeared in the Sky Islands that crashed in this area as well. So it's almost as though they're hinting that some motifs have influenced human Hylian and Gerudo and Goron and so on, and Zora structures on land as well. Just coming back here, we can see this sort of double arch thing going on. Very, again, sort of Middle Eastern inspiration, but I'm pretty sure I touched on Gerudo more broadly in the Breath of the Wild survey. But again, another burial, another slab. In this case, we have an inscription on top of the slab as well. In fact, they probably all have an inscription on, but here we can actually properly see it. Another pot with that motif on, and a bow this time in the grave. A bow. So, Pakel's crypt. No, you're gonna have to share that and the Colossus in the after streams on Discord, please. Tears of the Kingdom has many more tombs and with burial items. They do, and I said this at the time, Mindle's mum, but I really feel as though they are playing with past, present, and now being in the future of that game, and having a sort of an archaeological progression, both in terms of how people are discovering things and uncovering things, but also in your ability to observe change. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if they deliberately incorporated more in the way of funerary rites in this sense, deliberately, because they seem to be interested in the way that these sorts of analyses, this sort of reading of the landscape, can actually inform you as to what's going on in the world, wouldn't it? You know, Shadow of the Colossus. I got that game on PS4. I need to play it. Make some notes. Here's one of the sisters, the mysterious warriors from the past. I know. I'm so sorry. I keep on disappointing. Like, I'm disappointing Nolan by not finishing games or not playing certain games. I'm a letdown. Or I'm yet to have a treat, shall we say? I'm yet to discover something wonderful. So again, we have this combination of and this, I think this is something which comes out of the game actually, is these places that you're discovering are combinations of Zonai and earlier Hylian, Gerudo, etc. cultures working together. That's the whole point of the map behind the statue in the Forgotten Temple. And here we have on the right hand side one of those Zonai lamps, the sort of the pineapple things in a Gerudo context, you know. Shadow is the precursor to Breath of the Wild. Without it, we wouldn't. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Okay. I've also see this again. I've also heard that Beyond Good and Evil feels kind of like a Zelda game as well, which I'm yet to play. So yeah, here we are doing more experimentation. Again, one of the reasons I love this game. The wonderful Toro and Calip. Statue is very Mexican. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Right. Today I went to see... we went to see Deadpool and Wolverine. And it's very funny. It's a very good film. Lots of fun. But there's a... If you put it this way, if you're a fan of Toro, there's a moment which is very clearly highlighted in the film that had people stunned, like jaws were hitting the ground. So yeah, the whole of the century. Now again, some of the language that the all in for the oogling, there was some top oogling, and actually Ryan Reynolds Deadpool helps you along as well with that. He just goes mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a sight to behold. But yes, the language of the archaeologist in the game is fascinating. We have Toro talking about the whole of the century, a very sort of materialistic way of... Although he is interested in the data as well, and the stories. So he's probably not just being driven by like treasure here. But we also have this weird thing of, like, again, amateur versus professional. No doubt an amateur ruins enthusiast like you is curious how that's proceeding, that kind of thing, you know. A Toro is language specialist. What does he know? What does him flex? Early 20th century contact archaeologist. Yeah, kind of, a little bit. I don't know why I screen grabbed that. This is back up in the Sky Islands. Puzzle solving. Again, similar in terms of trackways to what we see in the depths. And also as well, in the metalwork, very explicitly and specifically, we have that sort of, I don't know what we'll call it, that sort of wandering line work, you know, that kind of thing. Sky Shader in this game, it's a beautiful game. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so here we go. This is one of the statues from Breath of the Wild. Well, actually, no, this is not one of the statues from Breath of the Wild. This is a statue in a place where it wasn't in Breath of the Wild. But it is one of the statues that features in the jungle in Breath of the Wild. And I was wondering if this is what the Zonai would look like. And it's not actually what the Zonai look like, but it is nonetheless a bird. Sort of. There's a beak there with a mouth. There's some sort of big eyes, maybe folded wings. Has a beard. Possibly has a beard. I was thinking it looks a bit more like a tabard or something. Some sort of drapery. in the lightning place. Yes, exactly. They are. Yeah. This one does do some Indiana Jones shit, and that's why we have the green beam there. But this comparison, Gorget, possibly. Yeah, possibly. Although I think a Gorget sits around the... I don't know. A bit, yeah, that comparative thing. I think it's going to have to be, actually, isn't it? It's going to have to be... We're going to have to try and make a list. Maybe it's going to have to be 2 streams, where one will be targets for comparison between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and I'll just do 2 streams and then edit them together back and forth in a video. But comparison, I think. And I know I made a note of change. Yeah. So I'm going to have to say here, yeah, change, and then actually compare, literally, some key targeted comparisons. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, yeah. Methinks. It's going to have to be. It will have to be. Because it's... I think that's part of the... Again, the point of the game is that it can only be fully played and understood as a sequel. And this has been so weird, because some people were saying, oh, do we have to play both games? You don't have to play both games. They go Zonai Ruins, the Dracuzo Lake. You don't have to play both games, but it really adds to that richness if you have played the first one. Again, massive underground skeleton, fossilized skeleton, very reminiscent of, as I say, the opening of Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. The scale of it is immense, truly immense. Oh yeah, whenever I was trying to get screenshots, often my companions would be like shooting enemies. I'd be like, stop shooting enemies! I want to get a screenshot, I want to get a clean image! So I had to try and get another one. And he's like, let's go! From Prince Sidon there. It's like, go away! Go away, Sidon! I'm trying to get a Sidon image of the fossil. Here we have a fossil which is got massive pieces of rock incorporated into the structure of the ribs. It's sort of clear. Again, maybe it's been excavated by the Zonai and plonked there. It's a heck of a thing. It's massive ruins. Massive fossils, sorry. Right. Okay. But nonetheless, a link would be very welcome. I'm very intrigued. Now this is a little drama that unfolded in Tears of the Kingdom, where I was trying desperately to get up onto through this little dot here at the bottom of the island, this floating island, because I was convinced that you had to go whoop up through that. Speaking of which, Mendel's mum, you missed up through the bottom clip grabbed by Nolan, so he saved that for us. But I was convinced that must be how you meant to get up there. You meant to go up through there, and I was trying to stick all these up through the butt. That's it, up through the butt. Trying to stick all these bits of wood together to get up there, and it was very, very difficult to make it work. Eventually, I tried these hovering pads instead to try and make it work. And I think this is me very frustrated because nothing was working. So I just ended up just going, did I burn it? Yes, I burned it down. Yeah, I spent, no, it's not this. Because, you reach a limit of the number of things that you can stick together. And it just was not working. I was very pleased with the structure, but it also did not work. And then, yeah, this is the thing. So I thought, okay, you have to, because in other parts of the game, you have to beam up through there. You have to go whoop up through the butt. And I thought, there's going to be something up there. There's going to be something in there. And then when you go up through there, I finally managed it with the floating platforms, only to find that it brings you up here. It brings you up outside something of significance, but nowhere special. Just rip up through the floor. So annoying. And then I realised that actually what you could do is go in through the top. Because there's a treasure chest in there, there's a bouncy thing in there. All you had to do was basically jump in. And I think I'm just about to demonstrate that now. So get out a springy device, put it on the floor, hit the springy device, and you're launched. There you go. This is a prime example of the way in which I always make things harder for myself than they have to be. Always. The more intricate and annoying and irritating the solution, the more likely I am to be drawn towards it. And in this instance, I think I learned something about myself. Because after all that effort, I realised, oh no, there was, that's not the way to do it. They just want you to do this instead. Yeah. Anyway, it's moving on. So yeah, there's that island again, and yeah, it tortured me, this floating island. But also as well, it's one of the floating islands that actually does have a little connection to the ground. It's not floating too high. That root is clearly reaching down, and that's where it's located, just there. So yeah, oh yeah, there I am. Literally, you can see I'm looking at the island, and there it is. Yeah. Cool Aztec shield. Yeah, it's another Zonai shield, but again, very Mesoamerican in that sense. Yeah. Excuse me. Absolutely. Very busy map there. Again, I had this fixation. I was like, why didn't you work? What's wrong with you? I suppose what's wrong with me? Now, why did I record this? I do like in the... Oh, okay. I'm still fixated on this thing. No, I'm still just going, you tortured me, you island. Although, I do like... I'm just going to pause it here and just... Can we zoom in? No, we can't zoom in because it's a video. Can you see the concentric circles in the sand on the floor there? So the rock itself is in a concentric circle that's been planted in the ground. We have those pillars that come up out of the ground, again with concentric circles coming from them. Again, still very reminiscent of something like a Zen garden. Elegant and sort of resonant. Yeah. Still ever climbed the maze at the bottom of the map with those things? Yeah. Mask of Awakening, the single best mask in the whole game. It's a heck of a thing to wear. It made me very happy. Speaking of very happy, today I came across some items from Captain Bucky O'Hare, and I met a local geek person, a nerdy type, who kept me late because we were chatting about stuff, about shared memories of toys, and yeah, Mask and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and various other bits and bobs. I'll show you guys afterwards on the Discord server, but it was a good meeting, good afternoon. Cartoon or the toys? Both, yeah, both. Gee, I'm a tree. Gee, I'm a tree. That's Calip snoozing. Seemingly, I'm trying to scare him, I guess, with this dead-eyed mask on. Caleb, hello. Anyway. Oh yeah, these are the building materials and the island. I tell you, I was not letting go of this. Would that be the mask toys? Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the thing is, they were quite. I remember them being sort of a slightly luxurious toy item here. I'll go into it another time. But yeah, and then obviously Bucky O'Hare as well. Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember Bucky O'Hare always used to come on just before Baywatch. And I know that not because I managed to watch much Baywatch as a kid, but because my granddad would kick me out of the living room when it came on. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Someone's recognised me as Link here. Research speciality being ancient Hyrulean. And here we have text that needed translating. Drawings of structures. Yeah, everybody's making short jokes. Absolutely. Yeah. Just because he's a small but powerful guy. And this was interesting. It's, I think, Mindle's mum, we might have had a chat about this at some point, but the way in which they use a combination of sort of Middle English, I guess, to reference and to represent ancient Hylian speech is interesting. It's got that sort of look of Middle English where if you say it out loud, you get closer to understanding what it's meaning. So might here remembrance preserve for the sake of him on whom our hope rested, that kind of thing. It's really, really clever. Middle English and Old High German. Okay, yeah. And it's very good. And I swear these guys went away and took a significant amount of feedback about the implied history of Breath of the Wild and the archaeology and the research aspects, and just built on top of that. I'd be amazed if it was. Frankly, they might even have watched one of my videos. Who knows? Because it just feels like Chaucer. Yeah, sort of Chaucer-esque, absolutely. But it feels as though they just basically were making a game for us, for total nerds and language nerds as well, So Quinte Mineru, Queen Mineru, the king's elder sister, falls so deep in her books, which switch that she oft forgets to eaten. So falls so deep in her books, such that she often forgets to eat. Really, it's just fantastic. And I love the fact that they're doing this to emphasize age, but also they're giving you. I mean, basically, this is a Chaucer lesson, as you say. This is a quasi Middle English exposure while playing Zelda. And I'm sure so many kids must have got so much satisfaction of going, oh, I kind of can see what that says, without being told that they're learning about language. Somebody clearly had fun. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good question about how they rendered it in Japanese. Yeah, that's good. That's a good question, actually. Yeah, because interestingly, I guess in Ocarina of Time, you have the Great Deku Tree saying a lot of these and thou. Thouest has. So that sort of I don't know, the trappings of medieval or old language. But in this is a step further. This is literally properly done, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So said she, might she live long in spirit, housed within this construct. Just fantastic. Exactly, that sort of faux medievalish is. I've forgotten which one it is. There's a game I've been playing. Which one was it? There was a game I was playing not that long ago where it. Oh! Actually, Mindle's mum might not like this. Dragon's Dogma has some not great quasi-medieval stuff going on in the language, which really sticks out. The way that they spell. It's not even quasi-medieval. What they're doing is they're taking northern language. They're taking language, words like out, this kind of thing, and putting it into the voice acting and the dialogue, the subtitles in a way which just has a red flashing light, like a big red nose on the front of your face, that feels wrong to a British English speaker. Yeah, it bothered me actually. They used the Cumbrian spelling, and I cannot tell you why, but I sort of appreciated it, but at the same time, it didn't feel accessible. It didn't feel real, in a way that made it feel not even unreal. It made it feel wrong, oddly enough. But I am enjoying what I'm playing of the game. Again, it's another game that I need to be playing, for goodness sake. They get rid of it in the second one. I don't blame them. I'm sort of glad. Yeah, so this is the translation, I guess, of that text that came before. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm focusing on that far too much. Screen grab of me actually using a boat for what it's intended for. That was quite pleasing. Yes. Yeah, and actually, to be fair, Shakespeare, it is modern English. It's just it's got grammatical conventions and an approach to language which is not how we speak today, but it is technically modern English. And once you start reading it, once you start hearing it, you know what's being said. You don't have to work too hard to get the gist, Yeah, he did, and so yeah, so much of modern parlance comes down to that literal work, but also as well that attitude towards the language as well. Again, here we have another example of the way in which you have Zonai interacting with ancient versions of these different peoples. So I think it's not just going to have to be change, but it's going to have to be an aspect of the Zonai. So to check my notes here. Yeah, it's going to have to be an element of Zonai interacting with ancient peoples in different places, and sort of almost helping them, working with them, just having incidental contact. Actually, there's also going to be some scope there to talk a little bit about megalithic missionaries, sort of an outdated idea about how stone monuments spread around in prehistory. Okay, so Zonai, this is going to be another one, isn't it? Yeah, Zonai and ancient peoples across the map. Yep. Okay. Zonai. God, geez. Zonai Zonehenge. We are the Zonai, and this is a zone that we have henged out. The sand will mark this zone. Double post and lintel, yeah. But again, also slightly reminiscent of aspects of classical architecture, plus these niches with bowls in them as well. Henge discovered. It's not technically a henge, really. It's more like an amphitheatre, I think. But it's an interesting space, nonetheless. Interesting space. Oh yeah, I accidentally killed my fish in my house. Poor fish. Well, what happened was I picked it up and then I put it back down again, and it didn't survive the event, unfortunately. And you can see I was gutted. The carp, the Sanka carp, would not sink, unfortunately. It just floated there. I really very much enjoyed doing this. I made a snowman with glowing buttons and a nose, which was a carrot. And flint for eyes, and a top hat, which I do believe was it actually a hat? Might actually have been a hat. But yeah. Can you cook the carp anyway? I think I did end up cooking it, and then actually when you go away and come back, eventually a fish appears back in there again, so I think we're okay. But yeah, the snowman. I was very pleased with the snowman. Wanna build a snowman? Gave him weapons for arms, because, you know, what else was I going to do? And I was very pleased with that. Here we have another example of that painted version of the sky architecture. This is falling not in the desert area, but actually in the higher mountain snowy region. So again, some more connections there, but I've already made a note of that one. Another instance of me helping prop up these signs. It's hard to look to the future with anything but anxiety right now. I feel you, Varke. I feel you. Or Vark. I feel you, yeah. Old Kingdom has a Native American feel. There is... Well, and this is where I think... Because you can see, again, wings there as well. There's something, and also possibly feathers, possibly in the pillars there. Possibly. Ornamental spikes, job security for the sculptor. Yeah. Here we are in one of the Zonai mazes. This is another fascinating aspect of the game. Is they took the mazes that were on the ground and they mirrored them above and below, connecting them to the sky and to the depths. And what's interesting as well is that in Breath of the Wild, there's some armor that you can get from those mazes, which describes it as being made by an ancient, what was it, a warrior race or like a violent race. But basically, it ups your attack stats when you wear all of the armor. You deal heavier blows. And so all this while, you know, while we're talking about the Zonai being technologically advanced and so on and so forth, they're also quite possibly oddly aggressive. Is that akin to the Romans? You know, they have impressive architecture, but also have gladiatorial combat as well. Yep, the glider is again very Native American, absolutely. Close up of one of the sister statues again in the Gerudo Desert. Again, a mark of how some things have changed. The joys of archaeology. As soon as you solve one mystery, another emerges to take its place. Secret numbers. Ooh. No, Sealcret numbers. Yeah, the Gerudo do love their puns. I got into archaeology to look at things, not carry them, says Rotana. Must be nice having the same name as Princess Zelda's favourite swordsman. Again, no one believes me. No one believes that Link is in fact the hero. It's a real shame. Next time you see me, I'll be the star of the Archaeological Society. Again, there's this idea of archaeologists being ambitious, being a little bit pompous, a little bit self-obsessed, comparing themselves to the amateur. We have I took a picture of that for some reason. Oh, that's right. So you have some buried, what looks like the maze architecture, or the labyrinth architecture, but in the underground, in the cavern. She and Taro need to meet. Yes, I'm sure they will get along mightily. Where on earth did they get some notions? I don't know. I've no idea. An archaeolinguist who said, "I'll let the archaeologist do all the work," which, yeah, I can understand that. I really like some of the tents and things that the Zonai Survey team are making use of in the game, and that's probably going to turn up in that particular stream, I think. Oh, this is me moving on to what's it called? Doesn't matter, but it's a fun side-scrolling sort of puzzle game. We have here another example of sort of Hylian, as you can see, a Hylian eagle motif there, but also this metal lock technology, this sort of technology to sort of how keep water in particular ways. Copy and paste walls. Yes, yeah. Well, actually, that is something which I definitely highlighted in the Breath of the Wild survey, was the way in which the strategic way in which aspects were copied and pasted. In some cases, it was more obvious than others. The ruins on the Ash Plains in Breath of the Wild are very clearly weird. They don't really make much in the way of sense as ruins that were once cohesive buildings, and when you start looking at ruins, they have been sort of rotated, and it makes sense as you're running past it, but as you sort of look at it, you go, But again, that's where it goes meta. That's where you're talking about the game as an artifact in and of unto itself, if that's a word. In and of itself, in and unto it. Anyway, yeah. Jedi shield. Oh, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, the Jedi motif. Yeah. In and of itself. Yes, in and of itself. It's 20 past midnight. Works fine in the stall. Art looks kind of phony in 3D environment. Precisely. Yeah, precisely. Still art. Yeah. So yeah, I quite like this area. I can't quite recall where it was, but yeah, you have this sort of underground, flooded, clearly Hylian architecture that was all about manipulating the water. Yeah. And what we're doing here, lighting up the depths. Yep. Now, this is something which actually I probably should have pointed out earlier. The lamps are clearly based on these plants. So, oh no, sorry. Pillock. So the Zonai lamps are clearly based on these plants that you can deploy in the depths to light up areas as you're proceeding. And once you shoot them, then they sort of... we can't zoom in because it's a video. They sprout and light up. So I think that's probably where the inspiration for the lamps actually comes from. Oh, what's my flying above there? A pale horse in the apocalypse. Oh yes, yeah. A pale horse, and its name and its name on it was death. It said death. Depends on the translation, I guess, doesn't it? So where are we now? Let's see. More depths architecture. Again, we have a combination of the tapering shapes in the stonework, wide to narrow. We have outside on the wall, that sort of collapsed limestone kind of look, but also as well there's plants with the sort of peacock tail kind of foliage on them, which is cool as well. I'm climbing the limestone up to a ceiling with those circular motifs on, those concentric circles. What am I doing here? I'm opening a waterfall. Nice. We can see the owl again repeated here. These owl statues definitely had significance in Breath of the Wild for the Zonai, and I'm gonna have to come to some sort of conclusion as to what they are, because they are not Zonai, and whether or not they represent the Zonai image of the gods, possibly. It's yep. More massive bone ruins, this time in Gerudo Desert. Ooh, what's this one? Ooh, I'm not quite sure actually. So I love the hats. They're Ravio's rabbit hat. The fact that you can actually wear that in this game is a lot of fun. The way it flops around. Priceless ruins are for seeing, not eating. Yeah, Goron, stop eating the ruins just because you like rocks. So this is in the Gerudo, and I'm about to open up this tomb, I think. Yeah, and inside we're going to find... Ah, now that looks like it. Oh, it's a lever. Okay. Okay. Indeed, Daruk, stop eating the walls. So yeah, that was an instance of a tomb housing a switch mechanism. Not a weapon, not necessarily even human remains, but rather a switch. A switch. More massive bones in the depths. This actually looks kind of like a dragon head, doesn't it? That's possibly why I took this photo. This is one of the heads that you actually can see, and it doesn't. It's not one of the whales, not one of the big elemental whales, and it's not one of the smaller dragons. It could be like an ancient dragon, like a precursor dragon, which is much more massive. I love this guy, Dugby. One of my favourite people in the whole of the game. Clearly marsupial. You think? Okay. Interesting. Now, just curious, whereabouts are we in terms of the... Oh, wow. I've got quite a way to go. Oh, man. Maybe I completely underestimated how long this would take or wouldn't take. But I don't want to rush through it, so maybe I'm going to have to do this as a two-part live stream, guys, because it's getting late and I do have an early start. Tomorrow morning I'm recording with Steph Black, also known as Arcthot on TikTok, to talk about Stonehenge and archaeologists' response to the tunnel proposal, because she's got opinions and we're going to be recording them for posterity. But that's the first part. We've got some good topics for our Tears of the Kingdom, the Archaeological Survey. So Zonai ruins on and underground, regional contrasts with the sky, painted stones, and other architectural features. I think it's going to have to be 2 or 3 streams for that. Underground depths culture. Okay. Hyrulean adaptation. Sort of anthropological adaptations there in terms of how people are living. Zonai survey team analysis of that. Hylian recovery, so that's cultural recovery, not just adaptation. Yiga clan, change between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and then early Zora, along with in-game archaeologists. plenty of things to do, or to be starting with. Will do. You guys have a good evening. I shall go away and have a snooze.